GM fellow DGens. I love that I can say that. So welcome to a panel that I am so proud to be moderating. I am Samira, CTO of Elbaite, the world's first non-custodial cryptocurrency exchange. So sitting next to me are my fellow peers who share battle scars with me and also share persistent determination to continuously provide a truly innovative service. We've overcome some really significant hurdles and very challenging discussions with banks, government, and industry to be able to provide a service that we wear with a badge of honour, and that is to give everyday Australians safe and secure access to cryptocurrency. So it's a huge honour that we provide that service for you, and we do take it very, very seriously. And so today we're going to be showing off what we have planned for the rest of the year. So with that, I introduce to you our panellists. So please, if you could start for us. How are you going?
Hello, how are you?
Introduce yourself.
So Jordan Michaelides, I'm at Coinjar, and I lead the institutional and partnerships team.
I'm Ray, Head of Marketing at Coinspot.
I'm Eaton, Independent Reserve, and I head up partnerships and business development.
I'm Holger from Banxa, Fiat on-ramp, and I'm co-founder and CEO.
Amazing. And so one thing that I was toying up was, as they were introducing themselves, whether they would talk about the year that they started the exchange, but because I really wanted to just show off the early years of these exchanges, because it's a lot of experience on this panel. So we'll start off first with quite a sombre issue, which is debanking. Sadly, it's still an issue even after 10 years. So let's talk about what problem that it's causing for your businesses and even the Australian crypto economy as a whole.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. When I saw it on the notes, I was a bit surprised because I felt like we'd passed this issue in 2018-19, personally. I mean, maybe it's just because we're biased and we're in Australia and the UK. I don't know what others have experienced. I found that at the depth of the bear market in 2018-19 was when we had a lot of these payments providers come through, and they basically acted as a shield between us and the banks. So for Coinjar at least, it's not really been a problem in the last 2-3 years. So yeah, I guess that's been our experience of it.
Yeah, just to echo on that point, obviously similar with Coinspot, because we've been in the space for a similar amount of time. I think years ago it was obviously a lot harder, but just speaking for ourselves, there's been a lot of providers coming up recently that have really been able to bridge the gap and hopefully provide a solution for everyone.
I guess when it comes to the whole debanking issue, it's certainly a challenge. I mean, the issues speak for themselves. Just thinking ahead, I guess, in some of how it might resolve some of these problems. I think, a lot of us are kind of looking towards regulation or getting licensing and thinking that there might be some kind of magic bullet out there that will resolve, the banking issue. But I think it's going to be far more nuanced than that. I think as an industry, yes, we have to continue to engage with, the political process to get some licensing and some more regulation around it. But I don't think that necessarily, once that comes, is necessarily going to go, hey, all the banks are going to rush out to give us great banking services. As individual businesses, we have to make sure that we've got internal processes and risk management frameworks that when we're engaging with the banks, in addition to having those licenses, have show that we've really lifted up our standards so that, we can get banking. So I think, that's probably my comments about what we can do as well to resolve this issue.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we're operating internationally, and it's an international problem in the crypto industry. And many of the top-tier banks have just not gotten their head around how they can bank the industry. And for us, it's always good to have backups, or at least a really good relationship with the banks. And I think that's where we're sort of, what we're still missing. We'd like to have a dialogue, open communication, but instead, over the last years, and certainly much earlier, we've been doing this for 8 years now, we had probably 50 bank accounts closed, always without a reason. We sort of knew why. But if it's about consumer protection, let's talk. We have a lot of information about fraud cases, about where the orders are coming from. It's a blockchain. Yeah. So there is a lot we can share and learn from each other. It's not just about just closing bank accounts or debanking the industry or not banking them at all. From the get-go, it's really about just collaboration, because this space, it's not going away anymore. It's only going to grow. So let's embrace it, work together to I think, just provide the best user experience and the safest for Australians and around the world, really.
Yeah. That's actually a very important topic that you brought up, where probably even each exchange, even standing here, has a banking strategy where we've got, all right, backups. This, if in the worst case scenario this happens, we will execute this strategy. So that's still something that we are dealing with. So more lovely topics. So yesterday's topic was DeFi, and today's NFT. So these two topics are very, I would say they're very on-chain. There's minimal integration with AUD and traditional finance, right? So using the wisdom that we've gathered over the years that we've been operating in the AUD space, what is some words of advice that you have for these projects that are considering integrating into AUD?
I was going to say, actually, I don't think it's really their problem. Like, I think it's our problem more than anything. I mean, there's this weird issue right now where you've got projects and then the on-ramp. And there's sort of like a disconnect where you just log in, you load up your account with AUD, USD, whatever. You buy whatever currency, Ethereum, Solana, send it over to MetaMask or whatever wallet you're using, and that's the process. So I think that's really on us. And I think that's what sort of the next few years looks like, as us as a group making that easier.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think the responsibility falls, to all of us here to, really keep that focus on accessibility and making sure that these guys can work and do what they're doing well, and we can make it accessible for all the people that are trying to get into the space in Australia and globally.
So through last year, I noticed actually we had a lot of inquiry from NFT artists in particular who were digital artists for a long time. That was their business, and they had gotten into NFTs before they even understood necessarily how an exchange worked. And so it was really cool to see these artists on board and go, okay, I've got all this crypto and I need to turn it back into AUD. How do I do it? They'd been in crypto before they even, been in AUD in that sense. So that was really interesting. But I'd probably echo the comments that you've already made here.
Yeah, look, I think NFTs are really the first consumer app in crypto. Everything before that, it's been amazing, but also a bit techy. And now we have something that we can relate to, that consumers can actually have a use case in the real world, in the digital asset space. And I guess what the industry's job is to just improve the user experience and the safety around that. And what we're trying to do with Banxa is we're trying to offer direct fiat to NFT purchases, for example, so that you still get into the space, but without all these steps in the middle. And I think that just reducing the friction and making it all more relatable is what we need to do. Yeah,
I think from overall, if I can summarize what everyone said, words of wisdom is work with us. We've got all of the battle scars to help you there. So the NFT boom and the DeFi boom, significantly different, very, very different user types have come in. I've observed some differences. I'm wondering what differences that you guys have observed between the NFT and the DeFi, and did that change your strategy at all internally?
There was definitely a difference between the individuals and also the currencies that they use. I mean, DeFi is very numbers driven. I asked the team internally, a lot of people seem to think that NFTs in general are more community driven, but I don't know. I've my own experience in the DeFi space is it is heavily community driven. You just had different, for us, at least at Coinjar, we had different waves, you would say, of this recent bull market that's just past us. So, but the biggest thing was Ethereum purchases overtook Bitcoin for us, without doubt. So that was the big one.
That's a very interesting one.
Yeah, I see a lot of similarities, really. I think you see two sides, if I start with DeFi, just very excited community talking about this new tech and really just trying to educate the masses as to why they're so passionate about it. And I see that right now with NFTs, where there's a lot of people, in this room and externally that are so excited, but there's still a vast majority that don't understand it. So that's kind of the similarities that I see. And as we said, going back to the previous question, it's kind of on us to to make that accessibility there, make the education there, to make it accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. The education piece is probably key. The DeFi boom, NFT boom, people will come and talk to us, and that's the first question they want to ask. Can you just explain? And it's not necessarily been the exchange's role to educate people, but I find that we're doing so much of that, and so I think that's actually something that where we can just help the adoption and help just the community in general. It's just by being a place that can provide good sort of education without just a safe place to provide education.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you're saying. I believe NFTs are just more relatable again, and DeFi's been for a certain group of people that really get this space, because to get into the DeFi space, you really have to go through a few steps. Same with NFTs still, but it's again more for a broader market, I would say, at this stage, and that will help onboard just more people to the space, probably potentially because of the scale, and we're just scratching the surface with what's possible with NFTs. Next year is going to be a complete different game again. So I believe that's just going to be an entry point, a stepping stone to get us to the next thing as well.
One of the observations from our side was actually that we found that the NFT crowd, probably the most technically educated in the space, they from the get-go knew what a crypto wallet was, right? So that, for me, I think really raised the bar of how many assumptions that we can make on the first users. So I think it was actually a positive one. But also, it's now interesting what some of the exchanges are doing, like Coinspot, your announcement today with the NFT platform. So it's also creating some changes in strategy as well. Okay, so moving on into internationally, we've talked a lot about Aussies and homegrown technology and services, but we've seen a few of our exchanges actually venture out globally. So wondering if you guys could speak on some of the lessons learned from outside and some of the differences between the Australian market and the global one.
Well, I've personally felt that for me, it all comes back to like regulation more than anything. I feel like Australia is actually pretty good internationally. We're only in 2 jurisdictions, so I don't know if the others are here or outside of that, but we found Australia very good. Everything we've been able to do in Australia, we've been able to replicate in the UK. The UK is probably the best globally, I find, personally. Just the FCA in general is very easy to work with. I cannot see us going to the US anytime soon. When presidents are signing executive orders that encompass a whole bunch of things, it just makes it really risky. The EU is incredibly complex. You need to have an understanding of every single individual country to go into that market. And then there's Asia, which we're sort of contemplating at the moment. But is the grass greener? For us so far, I would say it has been. I mean, there's 80 million people in the UK. There's 25, 26, I don't know what the census said recently, but it's way bigger. It's so much bigger.
I would say for Coinspot at this stage, we've still got a grassroots focus on the local market. We've recently surpassed 2.6 million users, which if you count for over the age of 16, which is how old you have to be to have an account, it's roughly 1 in 8 Australians. So right now our focus is still trying to get the other 7 before we look internationally, but it's really good to hear from the other guys talking about it.
So we're obviously in Australia, and most people will be aware that we're also licensed in Singapore. So we're very proud of the fact we're the first of 170 global exchanges to get licensed from the MAS, and MAS is a world leader in terms of regulation. And I think that's sort of given us a lot of encouragement to go, yes, we can be competitive globally. It's certainly been, we've got a lot of recognition for that, and I think, that helps us back in Australia as well, because when there is a licensing regime, to know that, well, actually one of the things that Adrian, our CEO, he was always very big on going, we know legislation's coming, we know regulation's coming, so let's build our business from day one to spec that if somehow the Corporations Act was just applied to us tomorrow, we'd be fine. And so we haven't had a chance to really prove that in Australia just yet, but we got that in Singapore. So I'd say definitely the fact that we've gone to Singapore and done that has been very encouraging. We've also just learned a lot. So if we want to expand throughout Asia, and we're already in New Zealand as well, That gives us a lot of confidence, but also a lot of learnings. So it's been a great experience, and I think we'll continue to pursue it.
Some really impressive numbers, guys. That's awesome. We're a bit different. We're an international business. Actually, most of our sales comes from outside of Australia, US, Europe-centered. And we're set up with local entities in those markets. I have to say, we're 8 years old, so we are we helped shaping the initial regulatory landscape here in Australia with Austrac back in 2018. And all we really wanted was certainty, just the boundaries where we can operate. And Australia has always been very, very innovative and forward-thinking with that. And we hope that this is continuing to happen. And what we've heard from Senator Hume and Bragg on Monday, they're embracing this and they really see the opportunity. And we just want to continue supporting that from industry side. Because for us, I believe we just need to get told what we need to do so that we can operate within those limits. And that goes back to this banking issue. Then we can find the relationship with the traditional industries as well, which we're still relying on for paying salaries, for example. So I think that's important, and Australia has always been a pioneer. And in fact, there are amazing global crypto companies coming out of Australia. Australia is punching way above its weight. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. Australia's, even historically, even outside of crypto, what I've been hearing, look, I'm fairly new to the whole finance industry, right? I'm more of an expert in crypto than finance. But what I've been hearing actually that Australia's been a pioneer in fintech overall globally. So it's actually quite interesting that we're able to replicate that pioneering mindset with even the crypto exchange services that we have here as well. So, yeah, if we look at Australia's, now that going back to the finance topic, if we look at the Australian banking sector, we see the top four that really dominate their space. Do you predict that this is something that will happen to the crypto exchanges in the future for Australia? Is there a benefit to fewer exchanges, or is it better to have multiple operating? What do you think?
It's interesting. I mean, if we're going to be purely selfish, it's better for us if there's less. I mean, we just get more market share, we get more revenue and fees. So if I'm being selfish, yeah, it would be nice if the industry consolidated. There've been plenty of examples. I think Kraken acquired a local exchange maybe 18 months ago. We've heard and seen FTX, Binance, they're already going after staff. So I think it's just going to make the whole sector more competitive. Last I checked with Austrac, there's 650 exchanges in Australia registered. So right now, fairly distributed. I would say everyone in this room has probably got, on average, 3 to 4 accounts with different exchanges. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what was just said there. I think it probably is trending that way to a degree, that there is maybe a more dominant few exchanges. However, I think competition's always good. I mean, competition breeds innovation, and with that, that's kind of why a lot of us here have put out these awesome features. It's because of competition. If there was only one exchange, well, would it be as innovative? Would we be moving as far into the space that we are? So bring it on, I think, and yeah, hopefully we all keep doing really well.
I actually think that the key thing for the emerging sort of crypto industry in Australia is not necessarily the number of exchanges, but the quality of the exchanges in here. So I think, the industry would be far better served by having sort of maybe a fewer number of really quality exchanges, because, like, for example, if someone was to get hacked or go down, or that would be catastrophic, I think, for everyone, even if it wasn't you who got hacked. So I think it's a question of quality over quantity, for sure, just to build more faith in the industry. And how hard is it to get banking now when you do everything right, yet alone an exchange that's not doing things properly goes down? We all going to get tarred with that same brush. So yeah, quality over quantity, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess my point is that, again, we're just scratching the surface of what's possible in the digital asset space. We're just starting, really. It's where the internet was in 1995, so there's going to be so much more. There are going to be so many companies that are going to specialize much more, and that's where I just think innovation is most important, and whoever does it best. Many of these platforms in Australia, they are offering a range of services already, but there will always be special players that do it really well. Like, look at an Afterpay in fintech. They do buy now, pay later really well, and they've done quite amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely agree with innovation and competition. It's actually really good for the industry, but we'll see if there will be a top 4 dominating the crypto exchange sphere in Australia. So last question, what are you excited about internally in your in your companies, and maybe excited for your users? Do you have any things that you're looking forward to in the next 2 years?
I think I covered it earlier in terms of the issue that we have as a group is translating specifically for NFTs and DeFi as well. That experience in Web3, that is probably the biggest one for us, is how can we change that experience. As a retail-focused company, I think that's the biggest thing for the next 18 months, for sure.
I guess for us, we're in a bit of a special place, being Coinspot and having so many users, like the largest user base locally. And for us, I guess, we just want to focus on still providing value and keep growing. We have no intention, to kind of slow down. And that's why even today, with that innovation of the NFT thing, we just want to do as much as we can for our customers to give them, what they want to help the space grow, and really just always goes back to that point of simplicity, accessibility, and making it available for everyone.
I think I'm most excited about the changing face of the people who are engaging with us. So you've gone away from the individuals to now we're seeing more and more SMSFs. In sort of the independent reserves case, we're seeing a lot of engagement with the professional advice network, so advisors, accountants, wealth managers. So having engaging conversations with them, but also building integration that fits in with their world. So over the next sort of couple of months, we're going to announce some great partnerships with some existing sort of traditional finance service providers, which allows us to kind of really fit in with their world, which just means that we're going to have a lot of advisors who are kind of being dragged into it because there's client demand. Crypto is going to look and feel just like their existing world, which is going to reduce those barriers and just allow a lot more participation.
Yeah, so for Banxa, we're a fiat on-ramp, so we convert fiat currency to cryptocurrency, and we're integrated in many of the big exchanges like Binance, Huobi, even Trezor, Ledger. But these are mostly the centralized platforms. Now with Web3, we're looking into whatever is there on the other end, if it's a 1inch or a blockchain gaming company, anything NFT or the metaverse, whatever that is, eventually. So we really just want to reduce friction and onboard users into this new world, and that's our mission.
And I absolutely love that. Again, this is why I love and respect the crypto exchanges that have been born and bred here in Australia, because we really do take the responsibility of being that on-ramp from AUD to crypto, whether that be crypto as just Bitcoin or NFTs or DeFi. We do take that responsibility very, very highly. So thank you again for listening, and hope you enjoy that.